I was thinking today about breathing and the breath and how so many of us, myself included, have stopped paying attention to that necessity that we have in our life. Like, breathing is a necessity, and I feel like we've almost taken it for granted because it's just something that our body automatically does. So we don't even think about it. And yet, breathing can change so many things in a day, in a situation, in a relationship, in an experience. And yet we never tap into that power or that energy or that necessity of life, which is breathing. So I just wanted to talk about how I've become way more aware, and yes, this has to do with yoga because I've been doing yoga practice, and to, one of the main things of yoga practice is, hold on one second. Okay, sorry. One of the main things of yoga practice is breathing. And what's interesting is one of the main parts of scuba diving is breathing. You can't, one of the biggest, the number one thing in scuba diving we always tell our students is do not hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. And there's many reasons why. I'm not going to go into it today, but the main reason is that you can injure yourself. And there's a whole thing about it, but and in life I feel like the same is also true. Don't hold your breath. When we hold our breath, it's like we're gripping, we're constricting, we're not allowing the vital thing that we need in our body, which is oxygen, to circulate. And if you think about it, above all things that our body needs, oxygen is number one. You can go days without water, you can go a week without food, but you cannot go more than, 7 minutes now that someone did a breath hold, 7-minute breath hold, something like that? I think it might be longer. Anyway, speaking of breath holding, there have been people who have had what they call like divine experiences from breath holding. So yes, you can hold your breath, but also know that eventually, for your body to survive, you're gonna have to take another breath. But back to the whole never hold your breath, it's because our body needs to breathe constantly. It needs to circulate oxygen for our cells and for our everything. And yet it's the one thing we don't think about, we don't utilize, we just breathe all day long, in and out, up and down, around and around, and don't even think about it. And yet I've noticed that the more I've gotten into trying to be more in the present moment and more in my body, it all comes down to the breath and paying attention to the breath and noticing when I'm gripping, when I'm clenching, and when I actually release. And I've had a few moments where I feel like I'm getting better and better at letting my breath do what it needs to do in certain situations. For example, I was in I wasn't in an argument, but I was having um, an argument with somebody I was working with one day, and I was feeling very like confronted, and my normal response is like freeze, and I kind of froze, but then my body was like, breathe. And I immediately like almost sighed out this big breath, like, oh, because I'm trying to teach myself to not react, to not have the same response as I've always had, because I know that I need to communicate with this person. And if I freeze, if I lock up, if I hold that breath, I'm either gonna like burst, with and say something I probably don't want to say or is not necessary to say, or I'm gonna stay frozen and start just, saying, okay, whatever, you do you, blue boo. But I didn't. I let the breath go. I had the conversation with the person. It wasn't perfect. It was still, you know, um, strained, and there was a lot of emotions involved, but I realized how much when I'm in a conflict or like a confrontation, I stop breathing. And that's like the last thing you want to do. Don't hold your breath. It's essential to keep breathing through those moments and let the emotions rise and let yourself feel them, and also give yourself a moment to, because I think a lot of us too, we get confronted and we feel the emotion and we hold our breath, we clench, and then we just react. We just spew, whatever it is, like the first thing that comes to our mind. And instead, if you like breathe it out and take a few moments to take a few breaths, like slow breaths, and regulate your nervous system, how wonderful it is to actually enter into that confrontation from a place of like, okay, I see why you're upset, and then da 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 da, instead of, well, you told me this and you told me that and la 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 la, which is where most of it comes from. Like, we hold the breath and then we just argue. We have an instant argument with that person. And how does this relate to life and yoga and scuba diving and all of that? I just think that so much of our days, every single day, we're holding our breath. We're not breathing. We're getting the email or getting the confrontation or having that struggle with our partner or with our job or with our housemate or our family member, and we stop breathing, and then, like I said, we either spew out the first thing that comes to our mind or retort, or we don't say anything, we go into freeze mode, and we're operating from that place of survival mode instead of from a place of like grounding. And I know these all are like yoga terms and whatever, but it's true. It's like you take a few breaths and it centers you, it grounds you, it puts you back into alignment with your thoughts and your emotions before you speak the thing to the person. And I feel like so many conversations and arguments, and scratch that, so many arguments could actually become conversations if we just breathed, if we just took a breath or 5 breaths, Or even took one breath and said, I need to walk away for a minute. And then you walk away for a minute and you take some really deep breaths and then come back and have a conversation instead of an argument, instead of a confrontation, instead of a full-on brawl, just from breathing. Like, the concept is almost so simple, it seems ridiculous to think that, wait, that's all I have to do to not have an argument with my spouse is just take a few breaths. And it's like, yeah, like, it does wonders to your brain, to your emotions, to your body, to everything, just breathing. So that's what I was thinking about today. And thanks for listening to my story, and I'll see you